Hello, metal lords and ladies. Today's video is going to be a list of my top 17 most essential coming-of-age albums. This is going to be a list of my most listened to, top favorite, most essential albums from my teenage years. So I'm calling it my coming-of-age years because it's really the time where I was coming into metal listening and discovering this world. I started getting into metal when I was about 15 in 10th grade. I handpicked this list. It's sort of a combination of albums that I was exposed to, whether they came out during this time or they were given to me by chance or I stumbled upon them by chance. So it's not necessarily a reflection of the best album of each of these bands, but it's the albums that meant the most to me at the time. Another factor that I used to pick this list was how good the album was, if it was solid from start to finish, if every song was awesome. Now, of course, this list is pertaining to my coming of age years, so today I have other top albums that maybe I'll make a video about later, so keep that in mind. These are the albums that were most important to me growing up, in which every one of the songs on these albums were an asset to me into my life, and where the quality was consistently good from beginning to end. So these are albums as a whole. And some of this list is obviously going to reflect the early to mid 2000s era, which is when I started to get exposure to this world. But there are a couple of random outliers. Number 1, Typo Negative's October Rust. This was not the first Typo Negative album that I heard, but over time, obviously October Rust is the most important. It's most important to a lot of people. All of the songs are masterpieces, and the album as a whole really represents the essence of Typo Negative. I mean, Love You to Death is my favorite, but think about all the other songs on the album. We have Praise of Bacchus, Green Man, Be My Druidess, My Girlfriend's Girlfriend, Cinnamon Girl, Wolf Moon, these are the essentials. Those are the essentials of Typo Negative. And if you've watched any of my other videos, you might know how important Typo Negative is to me. Number 2, Tiamat's Prey. I had heard a couple of Tiamat songs before I stumbled upon Prey in a music store, so I snatched that up, assuming I would love it, and I was totally right. Tiamat definitely switches up their style a lot from album to album, but I really love the dark romantic style of this album. Kind of hard to choose a favorite track from this album, but it's probably number 6, Carry Your Cross and I'll Carry Mine. Number 3, Catonia's The Great Cold Distance. This album is awesome. Every single song means something to me in a different way. I can't even count how many times I listened to this my senior year of high school. Catatonia has such a cleansing and emotional feel, and their melancholy and their solemn mood really fit in with my teenage years. Number 4, Nevermore's This Godless Endeavor. Arguably one of the best albums ever created, in my humble opinion. This album was my king. It is not an exaggeration to say that this album is perfectly constructed. It really did change my life, and with this album it was interesting because, some days I'd really feel like I needed to hear track 3. Some days I was just craving track 7. Each song was really significant to me, and each song was something that was beautiful alone, and then all together it was amazing, especially that it sort of climaxed in the final track, which was the title track, and it was this huge epic song. Number 5, Acid Bath's When the Kite String Pops. And I don't mean to say that When the Kite String Pops is better than Pagan Terrorism Tactics. I just happened to listen to Kite String far much more. Acid Bath is still one of my top favorite bands. I first started listening to them in about, I think, 10th grade. My friend gave me their CD, and he was like, "You should listen to this. I think you'll really like it." And I put it in, and I was kind of like, no. And then several months later, I was driving around on a really hot day, and I was like, I'm going to try this Acid Bath again. and all of a sudden it just clicked with me. Like, it made so much sense. I found it beautiful. I found it perfect. And then I just started listening to them non-stop. I really like acid baths, raw, sweaty, hot, sludgy kind of feel. It's perfect living in the South, especially in the summer. It kind of just helps me cope. Number 6, Sonata Arctica's Winterheart Guild. Of course, because The Cage is my favorite, and The Cage was the first song by Sonata that I ever heard, and many of the other tracks from that album were the first songs by Sonata that I heard. So all of those are really meaningful to me, and I just have the most love within that album. Number 7, Vital Remains, Dechristianize. Oh, if you're ever angry, just pop that in and it'll make you feel better right away. I still listen to that all the time. Oh look, where is it? Representing. Number 8, Dimmu Borgir, Enthroned Darkness Triumphant. That's another one that's just a masterpiece from start to finish. Can't really pick a favorite, but I do listen to track 5, The Night Masquerade, probably the most. But I just really love that album. It feels really magical. It makes me feel like I'm in a cold, dark castle or something. Number 9, Nightwish, Oceanborn. I'm not really gonna elaborate on Nightwish, but I do want to say Oceanborn is my favorite. Delve in the Deep Dark Ocean, Stargazers are my favorite Nightwish tracks, and Walking in the Air was one of the first Nightwish tracks I ever heard. So that album, fantastic. In my opinion, that's the best Nightwish, but everyone has a different opinion. Number 10, Old Man's Child, In Defiance of Existence. The first song I heard was Black Seas on Virgin Soil, and I was like, this is funky. I like it. And I bought that album, and it is so good, and I still listen to it on the reg. That's another one that just kind of feels magical. Once again, it makes me think about being in a castle. That's freaking awesome. I need an Old Man's Child patch. Number 11, Death, Sounds of Perseverance. I know. You can stop right there. I know that's not necessarily the best Death album ever made, okay? But it was a 2000s album. I am a child. I'm a teenager of the 2000s, alright? So that's the album that I was first exposed to. And you gotta say, it's fantastic from beginning to end. I love it. And I still listen to that one regularly too. Rest in peace, Chuck. He's up there. You can't see him. But anyway, that's the Death album on my coming of age list. All right. Number 12, Vehemence, God Was Created. Fantastic. Although all the Vehemence albums are fantastic, God Was Created just really resonated with me as a teenager. 13, Behemoth, Demigod, because that's the era where I came into Behemoth. That was the first Behemoth album I ever owned, and of course, you know, it has Conquer All and Slaves Shall Serve, but all the tracks are super solid. It's really good album. 14, Within Temptation's The Silent Force. It was hard to pick which Within Temptation album it was going to be, but after really looking into it, I'm like, of course it's The Silent Force, because it has tracks like Angels, Memories, Jillian, See Who I Am, Aquarius. I was way into some of that prom dress metal, but I still really like Within Temptation. Number 15, this one isn't metal, but it would be The Birthday Massacre's Violet. Although it's kind of hard to pick one Birthday Massacre album, but they were monumental in my high school years, and that album has songs like Lover's End, which was my favorite, Nevermind, and Blue, and I really just like that old raw sound from early Birthday Massacre. 16, Epica's The Phantom Agony. This, again, was where Epica was at when I found them, so this is where we intersected. Faint, Run for a Fall, and of course, the monumental Cry for the Moon are all on that album. And I love all of Epica, don't get me wrong. But when bands are beginning and they're still finding their sound and they're still a little bit raw, I just really like those stages. But this isn't about what I like now. This is what I liked back then. And this was up there. And for number 17, I almost forgot to put this one on the list because I actually got into this album when I was 13, which was a little bit earlier than when I really found metal, alright? So it is Mudvayne's LD50. This is just the album that really, I guess it's my gateway band, so to speak. But I listened to that from start to finish, like, over and over. I loved that one. That one might have been played more than any of the other ones. Okay, that wraps up my 17 top most essential coming of age albums for me. There are probably some that I will be kicking myself later for forgetting to put in here, but this is what I whipped up after a couple of days of thought. It was kind of fun just to sit down and chit chat about metal because I don't really interact with a lot of metal people on a day-to-day basis. Let me know which of the albums on this list was your favorite or what your most essential coming of age albums are. Oh yeah, I wanted to say that I saw Obituary last night with Gruesome and it was awesome. Alright, I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye forever.